Tension, being oppositional and stubborn, provocation for better or worse, not listening and not being listened to, making decisions that you might regret later. These are all pressures and qualities that this cycle of the human design weather for December 30th, 2025 to January 5th, 2026 bring. Hello, and welcome to the Human Design Weather or Not podcast with me, Margo Fraser. Happy calendar new year coming up here. Hard to believe it's the end of 2025 already. Our Human Design New Year, though, isn't going to start until January 21st. And there's a process of reflection leading up to the Human Design New Year that each cycle can support, including this one. So I've put together a set of PDFs that follow these next four cycles with contemplation questions to support you. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can go to margogfraser.com/human-design today to sign up and receive the set of contemplations for this cycle. And then I'll send an email with the appropriate PDF at the start of the following three cycles. So I'll put the link in the show notes on YouTube and into the comment section on Facebook. All right, well, let's get into the weather for this cycle. It starts on December 30th at 3:50 p.m. 2025, going until January 5th at 4:20 a.m. 2026. That's Mountain Standard Time. Universal time coordinates, it's coming in December 30th at 10:50 p.m., going until January 5th at 10:20 a.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. And we have two individual traits being activated by the Sun-Earth positions this cycle with their themes of mutation, knowing, and empowerment. Individual traits do not like to be interfered with. So that's something that is likely to play out in this cycle is, don't interfere with me. And both of these are in the root center, the bottom square in the chart, which is both a motor and a pressure center that brings the adrenalized drive. These particular traits are two out of the three of what we call gates of deafness that don't want to be interfered with and will tend to block others out. So don't be surprised if you or others don't seem to be really hearing each other this cycle. And that could result in misunderstandings. Why aren't you listening to me? Or, I already told you about that. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Yeah. Okay. We have the sun moving into gate 38, the trait of the fighter, also called opposition. Its keynote says the ability to preserve individual integrity through opposition to detrimental forces. So preserving individual integrity means staying aligned to what's of value to you as an individual, regardless of forces of others that may be trying to pull you out of that. The trait of the fighter brings the energy to fight for purpose in life and to see that life has value beyond just survival. It can help overcome the fear of purposelessness and in struggling to stick with what you know is correct for you, even in the face of opposition from others. This gate points to the splenic center, which is about health and well-being. So not using this energy correctly could result in health issues. Patience is needed with this activation, though, as awareness of what to fight for is in its electromagnetic connection, gate 28, the trait of the game player in the splenic center. The 38 on its own can only speculate on what to fight for, but the knowing isn't there. As a result, it can bring being stubborn and oppositional generally without discerning what to fight for, right? You say one thing and the other person says no, like it's the opposite. They're always fighting you or you're always fighting them. The melancholy, right? Every individual trait can drop into melancholy. And here, the melancholy is that of not knowing what to fight for. Melancholy is the natural biochemistry of the individual traits. There's nothing wrong. It can pulse in and then pulse out. So you have to try and see the beauty in it and channel it creatively. These are very acoustic gates. So listening to music that you're in the mood for can be helpful to move through the melancholy as well. Gate 38 is being grounded in the Earth's position. Gate 39, the gate of provocation and obstruction. Its keynote says the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. When you provoke or are provoked, it can force you to look at another perspective. That's a type of obstruction that can cause you to reassess and reevaluate. This trait brings the energy to provoke the emotional spirit of another person. It's pointed at its electromagnetic in the solar plexus, emotional center, gate 55, the trait of spirit, the emotional spirit. In the high, it could provoke joy, passion, pleasure. It could be someone who says something when you're down that just makes you burst out laughing. It could also have you just trying to get an emotional rise out of someone and kind of piss them off, or someone could be doing that to you. It's a trait that could bring out the button pusher in you and others. But again, there's no awareness here. It's simply the drive and pressure to provoke the spirit. It's the energy that's saying, where's your passion? Where's your spirit? What do you love? In a relationship, it's the gate of flirting through teasing. By the way, if you have this gate in your own design, those that generally react negatively to your provocation are likely not for you. And you don't necessarily have to say anything to provoke the other, right? You carry that frequency in your aura, you're transmitting that out. There's a perseverance built into this energy to seek out the spirit in the other, to persevere through the moods of gate 55. That gate of spirit and what it releases. It operates in a pulse within the emotional center, which means high highs and low lows. And because the 55 does operate in this pulse, what might seem to be the right spirit to provoke one day might not be another day. There's always a fickleness in the individual circuitry. So it's just generally, if someone seems to be okay with your teasing, your provocation, they're not getting upset on a regular basis about it, those are the people that are most often for you. This is a trait that looks for love and teases to see if it can provoke the spirit in its high form. If someone's telling an individual that carries the 39 in their design not to provoke, right? Stop provoking me. And you've got that. You've got the 39 in your design. It's like telling the sun not to shine. It's part of who they are. Once again, the individual traits can drop into melancholy. And here it's the melancholy of not knowing who to provoke. When we look at the sun earth positions together, it's going to bring tension, right? The fighter and the provocateur. It can be a really good time to go within and reflect on what might fuel your spirit and your purpose. Collectively, we could have a lot of emotional upset that's being provoked by collective decisions or people passionately fighting for what they know is of value in life. On the other hand, there could be people fighting for something that's really not of value out of that speculation, not really knowing and not having the patience to wait until the knowing comes in. At the personal level, really be checking in with your own strategy and authority if you're being stubborn about something or feeling provoked to ensure it's really correct for you. All right, let's look at our channels now. A reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities. So it has a big impact that way. We have our long-term channel that came in on December 22nd. It's going to be with us until May 13th. being created by the south and north nodes of the moon. They're creating the channel of community, a design of a part seeking a whole. The north node sitting in gate 37, the trait of friendship and family in the emotional center, and the south node sitting in gate 40, the trait of deliverance and aloneness in the ego center, also called the heart center, that motor that generates willpower. I went into a lot of detail about this channel when it came in, so if you missed that, you may want to listen to that section of the weather report when it came in on December 22nd. But I'll give a little overview here. So this is tribal with the theme of mutual support. So generally, we're going to feel the need for support and to support. We're going to see those who are supported and those who are not. As the channel of the marriage contract and contracts in general, there'll be an emphasis on fairness and fairness in relationships, whether that's in a partnership, whether that's in a business, whatever the context may be. Expect to experience and see themes of loyalty and betrayal, jealousy and friendship, possessiveness and being generous, negotiation of contracts, and also the breakdown of agreements, including marriages that are seen as unfair. It can bring a feeling of being taken advantage of if those bargains aren't fair, or feeling supported if they are. There'll be more pressure on coming together in family, in community. It's a time when it could feel really good to come together and share a meal together. There could also be explosive emotional outbursts if there are those that are feeling like they're the ones doing all the work without being appreciated, or that the work is not equally portioned out, or that the others aren't doing enough to provide for the family, the community, the group, whatever it might be. You can think of gate 37 as the glue of the community through friendship, and gate 37 also brings the needs to the community. Gate 40 then uses its willpower to deliver what's needed to the community. This is the breadwinner gate. However, if it's not appreciated, or if its willpower is just not there, willpower is not infinite, it needs recuperation. This is a trait then that will withdraw into aloneness to recuperate. We have heightened willpower and emotionality while this channel is present. So it's going to bring a general pushiness, right? Willpower is pushing to get things done, pushing through things. And the emotionality, well, that's the up and down of the emotional waves. So keep those surfboards out to ride the waves. This is the design of a part seeking a whole. So you may feel pressure to find your place in your family, your group, your community, and spiritually in the totality. We may see people joining groups that are really not aligned for them out of this pressure. They just want to have this sense of belonging. But there's also this opportunity to understand at a greater way what living your unique design gives you is your place in the totality, your unique piece of the puzzle of the totality. All right, we have one channel being created by a transit of the moon, so it's just a little taster because the moon only activates a gate or a trait for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take. So this one's coming in on January 1st at 12:27 a.m., going until 9:26 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC coming in January 1st at 7:27 a.m., going until 4:26 p.m. We have the moon moving into gate 36, the trait of change and progress in the throat center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 36, the trait of crisis in the solar plexus emotional center. Together, they create the abstract experiential channel of transitoriness, a design of a jack of all trades. This is going to bring the pressure to enter into a new experience, or if you're in one, to take that next step, or potentially bring it to completion. And then you can share about the progress and the change that's been made. It's where the rubber meets the road, moving from the yearning for an experience to actually doing it. And there can sometimes within that be a sense of inadequacy. So there's a fear of inadequacy that sometimes comes up with the gate 36 about, wow, can I really go through this experience? It definitely helps that the whole channel is there. But should you really be entering into a new experience out of this pressure? You got to use your own strategy and authority. There's a couple of rules of thumb for the experiential circuitry. One is one experience at a time, and the other is no expectations. You have to be in the experience if it's correct for you, just for what it is. Enjoy the ups and downs of the journey. This is emotional. All right, that brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for longer periods of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind could start to think that it's part of you, even when it's not in your own design. And then it's kind of confusing for the not self mind when that transit finally moves on. Let's start with the nodes of the moon, which, as we discussed, are creating that long-term channel of community. We'll have this background of both coming together in family and community, as well as seeing the breakdown of this. Now, these traits are sitting in line 6, which is a line of transition. Line 6 is always attuned to the full tribal circuitry in this case. This is an environment where the specific people in power that are not holding up their end of the bargain can be removed in a gracious way, or in the detriment. It's where it's not just the specific people in power, but everyone in that class is painted with the same brush and removed in a more aggressive way. We may also see those that are looking for deeper meaning in their life. We may see people withdrawing from their families and communities that they are part of in this seeking and going more within to find out what am I about? All right, moving to the outer planets. Jupiter's in gate 62. We've had it there for quite a while now. This is the logical trait of details. It moved into line 1 early on December 29th. Line 1 is called routine, and it's all about the ability to use fantasy to organize the details. In other words, projecting into the future the ways that your formula, your method, your theory could be used to determine if there's any missing details. This is really important to be able to do this kind of imaginal type work. In the detriment, there's a rebelling against this fantasizing and rushing to get the information out. This is a throat gate. It wants to express, which means the details will not be well organized and others are going to have trouble understanding and can challenge then what's been expressed. Saturn sitting in gate 36, the abstract experiential trait of crisis in the emotional center. It's in line 4 at the start of this cycle, called espionage. This is a trait that can bring an ability to really understand the nature of others and use secret knowledge to gain the desired experience. If you get caught up in the nature of others to the point that you don't learn about your own nature, though, you could end up in a whole different kind of crisis. Saturn's going to move into line 5 on January 4th, close to the end of this cycle, so I'll review that one next cycle. Uranus is sitting in gate 8, the individual trait of contribution in the throat center. It's in line 4, called respect. Its developmental theme says the gift of naturally recognizing the contributions of others, and particularly the acknowledgement of those who lead by example. Neptune's in gate 25, the trait of the spirit of the self, innocence, and universal love. It's in line 2, called the existentialist, and brings the pressure to be here now, rather than worrying about what will be or what was. If the ego gets involved, though, there can be a wanting to be recognized for one's selfless actions, which is really no longer selfless. Pluto sitting in gate 41, the gate of decrease and contraction, also a gate of fantasy. It's in line 1, called reasonableness. It's the start of the experiential feeling process. And to start an experience, first you have to fantasize about it. But ultimately, it needs to be reasonable. It needs to be something that could be brought into fruition. So if I look more at the exaltation side, weaving these together, overall, we have this environment of community with a desire for mutual support and fair bargains. Within that community, people are gaining experience by being reasonable in expectations, using secret knowledge, recognizing the contribution of those who lead by example without motive, and can organize and express all the details. Now, this can bring out a provoking of the spirit to find those with that glass half full optimism and stubbornly fighting to show life is of value. So that's something we may see playing out in the world. Now, in the not self world around us, we see more of the detriments playing out. So here we'll have the community where people are feeling betrayed, there's unreasonable expectations, and a lack of understanding of one's own nature that can take people into crisis. We have leaders that want to be recognized as doing things out of the goodness of their hearts, and where there's blurting out of supposed facts without actually having the details to back it up, which then leads to being challenged. All of that bringing out tension, provocation, and fighting. Remember that for any of these traits, if you don't have them in your own design, that's just pressure. It's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you. You can learn from it. But whether there is anything for you to do about it is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let it run you. This brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you want to understand more of the basics of the body graph at a high level, what are the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes and so on, a bit of background on the human design system, feel free to grab my free human design basics mini course. It's at margogfraser.com/human-design. If you enjoy the podcast, it's always helpful for me if you can give it a like and consider subscribing on YouTube. All right. Well, we have heightened emotionality and pushy willpower energy that brings that pressure to find your place in community and in the totality. Remember that in living who you are, you're inherently in your place in the totality. We have very strong individuality this cycle with the sun, the earth, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune in individual gates, along with Mars in the first part of the cycle and Venus in the second part of the cycle. This can express as not wanting to be interfered with, and you may find that you are pushing other people's buttons and being more stubborn than usual, or others are doing that to you. They're trying to push your buttons and being a bit feisty when you try and get them engaged in something. Don't feel that you need to do anything about any of the tension that will naturally be there, unless your strategy and authority say to. Okay. Have a great cycle, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.